The story begins by revealing that in 10 years, the Eastern Federation Kingdom is fated to collapse under the weight of the five great sins. This leads to total destruction, with nothing left behind. To prevent this disaster, the main character takes on the role of their patron, but he never expected things to turn into such a massive problem. At first, he is just an ordinary man working brutal 78-hour weeks in the modern world. Somehow, he ends up inside the body of a noble in a fantasy world. It sounds amazing, but he quickly realizes that he cannot read and has no special powers at all. He decides that learning the language is the bare minimum, which leaves the butler shocked when he sees him holding a book upside down. At mealtime, the maid serves him an enormous feast, and he eats happily while enjoying his new life. The servants even help him bathe, and he cannot stop thinking about how great it feels to be the young master of a count's family. He is pampered, useless, and completely spoiled, and he feels like he is on cloud nine. However, there is a problem. He has no idea where he is. Usually, when someone enters a fantasy world, it is one they recognize from a book or a game they know. One of the maids mentions that his brothers, young Master Leo and Tonio, are returning tomorrow and that he should rest. The main character feels confused, and the maid looks surprised that he cannot even remember his own family. As he thinks harder, those names begin to sound familiar. Suddenly, everything clicks. He realizes that he is inside the world of psychedelia. Psychedelia is a turn-based RPG that he plays whenever he has free time. The problem is that no matter which path the player chooses, the moment the five great sins, wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession, appear, the entire kingdom begins to fall apart. The nobility, the city, and everything else spiral into chaos. The Palacio house, where he now lives, is a notorious noble family that appears in a subquest before the main story begins. The eldest son, Leo Palacio, becomes the king of prostitutes, while the second son, Tonio, becomes the king of drugs. As this realization hits him, he drops to his knees. He knows this place far too well. It is the very first subquest in the game. When he looks around, the mansion looks exactly the same as it does in the game. The Palacio family is the first to be destroyed by the five great sins, and he is not even an important villain. He is the extra villain, the third son of the family, Alan Palacio. His face stays completely expressionless. He just learns that he is destined to die soon, yet the only thing on his mind is how many experience points this subquest gives in the game. That night he lies in bed, too scared to sleep. He thinks that he would rather return to his old life as a wage slave working 78 hours a week than live this luxurious life that will end in exactly 10 years. To him, this fate feels worse than 6 months of unpaid wages. He cannot believe he is stuck in a fantasy world with no powers at all, which is the opposite of what usually happens when people are reincarnated. Then an idea strikes him. Since he knows what happens in the future, he can act like a prophet. He can stop the destruction of the world by changing the path of the five great sins and protecting his peaceful, noble life. This does not seem impossible because the five great sins are still just children. However, with no powers of his own, he wonders how he can possibly succeed. 2 months later, the main character successfully rescues several orphans from a human testing center. When it says he manages to do it, it actually means that his knight carries it out. Evan is the one who carries out the rescue. He reports that he leaves the management of the orphanage in the hands of a girl named Utia. Our main character nods in agreement, realizing he made the right choice by assigning Evan to this task, as Evan is skilled at handling such matters. However, because our main character struggles to show emotions on his face like a normal person, Evan feels confused. He wonders if what he just heard is meant to be praise, since he cannot read his young master's expression at all. To clear things up, our main character forces a smile. Evan thinks he will never get used to his young master's face. He remembers how Alan used to show his emotions clearly, whether he felt gloomy or happy, but now everything feels strange. Even our main character suspects that possessing Alan's body only affects his face, since he cannot smile properly anymore. Evan decides to accept the praise and move on. Our main character explains that Evan is a rare gem in the world of psychedelia because he remains honest and loyal despite the many betrayals around him. That is why he hires Evan the moment he finds him. Returning to the report, Evan says that the reason our main character sends him to rescue the children from the testing center is to save Utia, and our main character confirms this. Evan adds that he understands why. Even with his experience as a mercenary, he can tell that Utia is no ordinary child. She is strong enough that he cannot understand why she simply accepts being locked up. Evan asks why she is not brought to the estate, since leaving her at the orphanage seems pointless. Our main character agrees on the surface, but inside, he thinks that bringing her in now would look like he is exploiting her rather than protecting her. Leaving her at the orphanage is part of his plan. Utiaudia is a non-human who later makes a pact with an otherworldly being and gains its power. She eventually becomes the embodiment of the sin of wrath and causes the deaths of countless people. Thanks to our main character, that future is now avoided, and he wants her to grow up in peace. He believes he has dealt with one of the 4 remaining disaster points. Since he cannot explain this to Evan, he gives a vague excuse and says that the time is not right yet. Evan grows curious about what this means, but like many side characters, he accepts it without pressing further. He tells our main character that he understands. Our main character asks Evan to keep everything secret and to support the orphanage with enough funds so the children can live peacefully. He then hands Evan a handwritten letter and asks him to give it to Utia. When Evan asks about the letter, our main character brushes it off and says it is just to check on her. He explains that she has been through a lot and deserves reassurance. Evan promises to deliver it and rides off immediately. After Evan leaves, our main character wonders if the letter will truly comfort her, but he decides it is worth trying. His true purpose is to include a quote he hears many times in the game. During a key scene where Utia goes on a rampage, the Archbishop recites a line about a spell that can be used to reach a non-human who has fallen into wrath. The words mention agony born from darkness and the brightness of belonging to the fall. Our main character does not fully understand the meaning, but he remembers that the words briefly affect Utia. In the game, she still kills the Archbishop. It is not because the spell fails, but because it is used too late. Her emotions spiral out of control and the kingdom is destroyed. Now, our main character believes the spell can work because it is not too late. Since he has dealt with wrath, he decides it is time to move on to his next target. Even so, he finds it ridiculous that a single quote might help him befriend a monster. Still, he considers the possibility, especially since the sins worship some mysterious god or otherworldly being. He cannot understand how those children think. To him, they seem like fanatics. Meanwhile, Utia reads the letter sent to her, and she is clearly displeased. As Evan watches her, he notices an overwhelming amount of mana radiating from her body. It is unbelievable. Evan thinks that this little girl is the strangest person he has ever met. She seems to have no emotions at all. Utia asks Evan to confirm whether the letter truly comes from our main character, and he nods. In the next moment, Utia releases her mana violently, like a yandere who has just caught her lover cheating. She is furious that she is not invited to the estate, and Evan is about to face the full force of her anger. Manifesting mana in solid form like this is something only those who reach the Master Realm can do. As fear sets in, Evan remembers our main character's words that it is not yet the right time for him to meet her. Surprisingly, the excuse works. Utia calms down as she interprets the quote included in the letter as a promise that only her master understands. Evan is left completely confused, unable to understand what is happening in front of him. Utia, still deep in her yandere state, insists that she understands what our boy means. This girl, who closely resembles Shaltir Bloodfallen from Overlord, embodies the sin of wrath as the daughter of monsters, the bloody queen Utia. Back with our main character, he believes he has managed to extend his luxurious lifespan just a little longer, and he is not wrong. As he drifts off to sleep, he imagines the bright moon in the sky cheering him on. He promises himself that he will work hard to save the next child. A small bonus scene shows him placing a primrose flower on his bed before falling asleep. He thinks that all he wants is a long, peaceful, and luxurious life. He wonders if that is really too much to ask.